Hi everybody, this is Ron Lennox with I'm Hangry Y'all, and today we are going to discuss, or I'm going to show you, I should say, how to make New York pie dough. For those of you that did not grow up anywhere near New York City, like within the tri-state area around New York City, that is also called New York pizza dough. Up there, we just call it pie. And it definitely is not the apple or pumpkin type. It is pizza. Um, so we're going to get into a little bit of basics about baker's percentages. It sounds scary, but it's not. It's not super scientific, but there is a little bit of mathematics involved within the culture of making any kind of dough, bread dough, pizza dough, any of that. Um, and I like to use baker's percentages because when you measure dough, or I should say, measure the ingredients for dough, the best way to do that is by weighing it, weighing all the ingredients, and the formula is built into baker's percentages for that. So there's specific types for every type of dough. There's a ratio that you want to use. So, if you want to get into making any kind of dough, my first recommendation would be for you to pick up a kitchen scale. You can get it at your local grocery store, you can get it online, you can get them just about anywhere. They sell any kind of kitchen supply stuff. They are not expensive. I think I paid $9 or $10 for the one that I have, and they range anywhere from, I don't know, $5, $6 up to 20, up to 50, whatever features you want to get into. But if you just want to occasionally make any kind of dough, you're going to want to get a basic kitchen scale, and you're going to want to get one that has a feature called a tare feature, which is TARE. That allows you to put a mixing vessel on top of the scale and then pour ingredients into it, measure out those ingredients by weight, and then hit the tare button again, and then you can pour more ingredients into it, measure it out by weight, etc., etc. So you have the ability to um, basically reset it for whatever vessel you're using. When I measured out my ingredients for this dough, I used multiple different bowls, multiple different receptacles, whatever you want to call them, little storage devices, and each one of those weighs a little bit different. So every time I put something on there, I hit the tare button to measure out what I was looking to measure and weigh. So the tare function is very important. You also want to get one that does measurements in grams. Milliliters would also be a very good thing to have as a feature, although you probably won't use those anywhere near as often as you'll use grams. Um, Grams makes it so much easier to do your conversions for your percentages for baker's percentage. Um, I mean, they're nice round numbers. It's not like 3 pounds and 2 ounces or anything like that, or 96 ounces or whatever it is, and then you have to figure out tablespoons and all that stuff. With using grams, you can measure out the tablespoons, but do it by grams. You can measure out the pounds, but do it by grams. You can measure out ounces, but do it by grams. And it's really, really easy to use the metric system for weighing stuff for baker's percentages, and I really recommend that you get one that has the ability to do that. Most of them do, some may not, but definitely look for one with the tare feature, the TARE feature, and one that has the ability to measure in grams and possibly milliliters as well. So let's get started. Basic pizza dough is very simple. There are very few ingredients in it, and you're talking about flour, you're talking about water, you're talking about salt, maybe a little sugar depending on which type of dough you're trying to make. A little bit of extra virgin olive oil for my New York pie style dough, and yeast, and really that's it. So you want to measure those out in the percentages that you use. For my favorite New York pie style dough, I like a 65% hydration dough. So that means that if you take 100% of the flour is 100%. So you measure everything else based on how much flour you're using. So we'll say that I'm using 1,000 grams. That's a kilo, like 2.2 pounds of flour. So 1,000 grams of flour, the water, liquid aspect of things. Personally, I like to add beer and water to my dough. So the liquid aspect of things would be 65% weight of the dough. So if it's 1,000 grams, the water liquid aspect of things would be 650 grams. So that's why I like using grams. It makes it so much easier. You can do it in your head. You don't even need to use a calculator, unless of course you're getting into like the 0.0 stuff percentages, like when you're talking about yeast and maybe some salt or whatever. But so the bread flour will be 100%. And again, for New York pie dough, you definitely want to use any kind of pizza dough, really. You want to use some kind of bread flour because it has a better gluten structure. It's going to hold together better. It's going to give you more chew, and it's going to make it nice and easy to stretch. So you want gluten for sure, and you want bread flour in pizza dough. So bread flour is 100%. The water liquid will be 65%. For this recipe, the salt is 1.75%. The sugar is 2%. And the extra virgin olive oil that I'm using, I use a unfiltered from my local grocery store. It's actually really good stuff. Tastes awesome. Adds a really nice flavor to the dough. Helps it brown a little bit too. That is 3%. And the active dry yeast that I'm using is 0.35%. So even less than 1%. So those are the percentages. I'll put those on the link or on the description of the video, whether it be in YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, etc. And it'll also be on my website as well. I'mHangryYall.com. I'mHangryYall.com. So, without further ado, I am going to go ahead and we are going to get started. Won't be much longer. But after this video is done, once the dough is fermented, the amount of time that I want to have it fermented, I will start a video on pizza. I will also do a video on calzones as well, just because those are my favorite things. So this dough, you will want to let it ferment in the refrigerator. So make sure you have a place in your fridge for your bowl, whatever bowl you want to use as the receptacle. After it's covered and you want to let it ferment, you want it to go sleep for a while and let the yeast do what it does. A cold fermentation, adds a really great depth of flavor to your pizza dough, and you don't want it to be bland. You want your pizza dough to taste like something, like the chains that are out there, the fast food chains, the 30-minute delivery people, whatever. Their dough does not taste like anything, and this is the exact opposite of that. So this is, like I said, my go-to. You're going to want, like I said, a place to put it, that you can let it sit in there for a few days. I let it go at least 2 days. I would say at least 48-hour rise in the fridge. 3 days would be better. 4 days would be really good. If you can last that long, awesome. If you want to pull it out after 2 days, it'll still taste great. It will not taste as deeply flavored as if you let it rest for at least 3 or 4 days. You can let it go in the fridge probably seven days before you start losing some flavor and start losing some texture. It starts falling apart. You don't want to do that. If you can't use it by 7 days, I would recommend maybe after 3, putting it in some containers, throw it in the freezer, let it freeze. Wrap it in some saran wrap, each bowl in saran wrap, and throw it in the freezer. And that way, you have pizza whenever you want. You can let it defrost, take a couple hours for it to defrost, thaw out on the counter, and you can have pizza whenever you want. So, like I said, at least 2 days, if not longer. If it's going to go longer than 7 days, I recommend you taking it out halfway between 1 and 7 and throwing it in the freezer. So All right, we are going to get started, and with that, we're going to move to the mixer. All right, so we've got our mixer set up. We've got our flour. We have our water mixture, which is, like I said, beer and water. I used a local brewery out of Houston called St. Arnold. This is their lawnmower beer mixed with some cold water. We have our extra virgin olive oil. We have our coarse sea salt. Do not use table salt. When you use this kind of thing, when you're putting salt in dough, don't use table salt, at least not iodized table salt. If you're going to use table salt, use the kind without iodine. And we have sugar, and we have our yeast. Should be able to see that, hopefully. Yes, you can. Awesome. So again, there's the flour, the water mixture, extra virgin olive oil, salt, sugar, yeast. That's it. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it on, and it's going to be loud. So I'm sorry about that. But here we go. We're going to actually put the yeast in first. I'm going to sprinkle it around there so it kind of gets mixed in. I'm going to put the sugar in. Sprinkle it around again so it gets mixed in. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the salt in there so it gets mixed in. And then we're going to turn it on low. Oh, got to put it. Sorry about that. I forgot to load up the bowl. There we go. Okay. So we're going to put it on low and let it mix for a little bit. Looks like everything's starting to get combined, so I'm going to go ahead and start pouring in a little bit of the water mixture. About half or so. And then I'm going to throw in the oil and mix that around as well. And then we're going to go ahead and put this back in. Alright. That's all of the liquid. And once that's in, you can go ahead and bump it up to medium, low, medium, low, whatever you want to call it. Basically number 2 on the mixer. And we'll be back when it comes together a lot better, so you're not having to hear that noise the whole time. So you can see it's starting to come together a lot better. Down in there you can see it's starting to pull away from the walls. I'm going to have to stop it in a minute and scrape down some of the dough off the walls and make sure everything's getting combined better. But it is starting to come together, and once it does, I'll bring you on that. So we're back a little bit later, just like maybe 2 or 3 minutes. As you can see, it's starting to smooth out, and that is what you want to look for. I'm going to stop it in just a minute or so because it's pretty much combined for my taste. It looks pretty smooth mostly, and honestly, you don't really need to knead dough. I can't speak. Very long. Some people say you got to knead it forever. You got to knead it forever. I don't believe in doing that. I knead it about where we're at right now. And then once it's done kneading like that, take the dough hook off. Smooth off the dough hook, get all the dough off of it. Like I said, it's still a little sticky, but it's not too bad. And what I'll do is I will get some extra virgin olive oil and oil the bowl and a little bit of the dough as well. Oiling it helps it to not stick to the bowl so bad, and it also helps it keep it from drying out while it is in fermentation. So as you can see, it's sliding around and it's nice and smooth once the oil's on it. And all I have to do now is take it off. You still see that? Yes, okay, awesome. And then what I'm gonna do is Get some plastic wrap. Cover it. Cover it with plastic wrap. I like to put, to make sure that everything's covered on it, and then I like to put a rubber band around it, a good size rubber band. You don't need to go out and buy these. If you get anything in the mail that is wrapped in a rubber band, those rubber bands are awesome for this. So this is ready to go to sleep for a while, and like I said, I'm going to let it go at least 3 days in the fridge, and then once it's done, I'll come back with another video on pizza or calzones and then pizza, one or the other. But that's it. That's how easy it is to make your own pizza dough at home. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.